Hi, so it's getting towards the end of the year and I've been having a bit of a clear out one way or another, and recently I started clearing out old files and photos and things that were on my computer, and then I decided to start looking at my Pinterest boards and seeing if there were things on there that I didn't want anymore and rearranging boards and that kind of thing. And on my quilt board I came across this picture. Now I don't know when I actually pinned this, but the blog post that it came from is going back to 2012. Anyway, I thought it would be a good stash buster project for the ScanNCut. So I looked on the ScanNCut machine and there are similar quilt blocks on there, but not identical. So I also looked at the blog post and I wanted to make my design a different size. So I decided that I'd take this as the inspiration and I'd make a block in ScanNCut canvas. So in this video I'm going to show you the design process I did to work my way through to making something similar. I changed the corner blocks. These are a rectangle and two squares. I made mine two rectangles, but apart from the corner blocks the design is more or less the same, but just in a different size. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do, or how I did it in ScanNCut canvas. And then in the next video I'm going to show you how I cut all the fabric out with the ScanNCut machine using the extra high tack adhesive sheet, so no iron on or anything like that. And I'm going to show you how I sew it all together, and I'm hoping that when I've done it all it will be a finished size of approximately 12 by 12, and I'm then going to add some binding, and I'm thinking that I'll make it into a cushion cover. So I'll just get rid of that and then I'll show you how I started putting mine together. So the first thing I wanted to do was make the squares. So I came over to the basic shapes and I got a square, and with the square selected I went to the properties box. I made sure that the maintain aspect ratio was selected, and I made the size 1.5 inches and then hit enter. And that was the starting point for the squares in the middle. So with the square selected I went to the edit icon, went to the offset and took the spacing up to 0.24, which is near enough a quarter of an inch. I made it on an outward. I made it bevel because we're using a square, I don't want rounded corners. And then in this section here under options I made sure that the tick was against create an offset line only around the outer edge, but then I also selected this last option here, select original line set to drawing line. So I did that and then said OK. Now the big square is the one that's on top. If I just deselect by clicking anywhere on the page and then click in the middle here, you'll see it's the big outer square that's chosen. So the first thing I'm going to do with that, because this is going to be my cut line and the middle inner line is a draw line, which you can use as a sewing line if you've not got a 1/4 inch foot or a 1/4 inch facility on your machine. Now you'll see in the video, in the next video, when I made my block, I didn't draw the lines at all, I just cut them. But I'm showing you how you can put your draw lines in, which will then enable you to sew it all together if you want to. So with the outer square selected, I'm coming to the properties box and automatically it's set it as a cut stroke draw, and I want it to be a cut only. So I'm going to select cut and close that box down for a minute. Now with this outer square selected I'm going to right click and send it to the back. Now when I click in the middle it's going to select this middle square, and I'm going to go back to the properties and just make sure that it is a draw line. So that's how I made it when I created the offset, but I'm just double checking. So this is a draw line, this will be a cut line. Now I'm going to select both, right click and group them. So that's now grouped together. And my block needs 16 of these, 4 along each row of 4 rows, if that makes sense. So there are various ways you can do this. You can either go edit and copy and paste. You can right click and hit duplicate, or with one of them selected, you can hit the D key on your keyboard several times. It's entirely up to you how you do it, but this is how I did it. And as I say, I need 4 rows of 4. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm just going to select 4, get rid of those. So I'm going to line up 4, select them all and align them all on the bottom edge, and I'm making sure that they nearly touch. With them all selected, I'm going to right click and create a group, and now I'm going to just make 3 more rows. So I'm just going to hit the duplicate key 3 more times, and then I'm just going to line these up so that they are very close to each other. It doesn't matter if they overlap ever so slightly, but it's just to give you a visual idea of how they're going to look. I'm going to select them all, I'm going to centre them all, and I'm going to right click and make a group. So they are the 4 blocks of 4 that I've just shown you in the quilt. So they're here. This is 1 block of 4, 2, 3 and 4. And that's what I've got here. Okay, all with a seam allowance on. So the next thing that I wanted to do was make the triangles. Now obviously these squares will be 1.5 inches when finished. So 2.5 inches make 3. So then I came over to the triangle and I held the shift key down and rotated it. And with it selected, I made it 3 inches and hit enter. Now again, I want to put the seam allowance on. So while it's selected, I'm going to go to edit, offset, take the offset up to the same 0.24 outward, and make sure that I've got all the settings as I had before, and say OK. And I'm going to have to do the same thing as I did before. So with the outer triangle selected, I'm going to go to the properties box and make it a cut line. While it's selected, right click and send it to the back, and then select the inner triangle and just make sure it's a draw line, and it is. Now I'm going to select both, right click and group. And just for the video, I'm just going to change this to a different colour. I'll make this red. So I'm going to put that one there. I'm going to right click and create duplicate. With the duplicate selected, I'm going to hold my shift key down and rotate it. I'm going to put that one there, and then I need 2 more to go in here. So duplicate and then hold the shift key down and rotate and do the same. Then I'm going to select all those 4, right click and make them a group just for now, and then right click and duplicate them. And then I'm going to rotate them and put them here, create another couple of duplicates, put one there and rotate the other one and put it down there. And then now I just want the rectangles in the corner. So these squares will all be 3 by 3 because that's what these make up, and these make a 3 by 3 when all the seam allowances are sewn. So now I want a rectangle. I'm going to hold my shift key down, rotate it, go to the properties box, and I'm going to make it 1.5 by 3. Again, I'm going to come to the edit box, create an offset, make it 0.24 and leave all the other settings as I had them. And then again, for the last time, just make sure I change the outer line to a cut line. So with it selected, I'm going to go to the properties box. I'm going to make this one green, just so it's easier to see. And I'm going to make it a cut line and just move the box out of the way. Then right click and send it to the back. Select this one, make sure it is a draw line, and it is, and make it green and close that down. Select both, right click and group. Now I need another duplicate, and these make my corners. So if I just select those 2 and make them a group, I can now make 3 more copies. And I'll just go to the mat and I'll take the properties away, so hopefully you can see it better on just a plain white background. So that's my block basically, which when all these 1/4 inch seams are all sewn together should give a finished size of 12 by 12. Now, the way that I saved this is, let's go back to the mat view. First of all, I ungrouped. Okay, now I came over here and I saved it. I think I called it Quilt Star. So first of all, you need to give it a name and save it as it is. And then I'm going to resave it in 2 separate cut files. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to save all the pieces that are going to be white in one file, and all the other pieces that are going to be patterned material in another file. But I want a master copy first of all. So I'll call it Video Quilt Star, and that way I know I'm distinguishing it from the one I've already saved. So I'm going to save it, and that's now saved. It doesn't matter that these extend beyond the mat when you're saving it, but it won't let you download it like this. So sorry about that. So I got interrupted and it was a few hours later when I came back to it, and by accident I closed it all down. So I've got the pattern back on again, and basically what I've done, everything that's green is going to be cut in white and everything that's black is patterned. So basically what I did was I'd got the main file saved, and then what I did was I took all the sections that are going to be patterned material, so that's anything in black here, and I deleted all those. That's the group, I just need to ungroup it. So anything that's in black here is what would be cut in patterned fabric. So then I just dragged everything onto the mat. And then I came over here and I gave it a new name. And if you change the name up here, it will ask you, do you want to overwrite the original project or save as a new? You don't want to overwrite the original because you want to keep your master file like I've got here with all the rectangles and triangles and squares. So I called the original one, before I lost everything, Video Quilt Star. I'm now going to call this one Video Quilt Star Plain. And then I'm going to save it, and it's going to ask me, do you want to overwrite this project or save as another? I want to save as another. And then say OK. Now I can go back to my projects. I can go to the master file. And then this time I can delete all the green sections, which will be what I will cut in white fabric, and I'll leave all the black sections, which is going to be my patterned fabric. Then I'll put all the black sections onto the mat. Make sure they're all within the red bounding box. And this time now, I'm going to save it as quilt pattern. And when I click save, it should ask me, do I want to save it as another project? And I do. So within my projects now, I should have the master file with everything in. I've got all the patterned fabric sections and all the plain fabric sections. And then when I go, I'll transfer this to my machine. And then when I bring this into the ScanNCut, I basically loaded up the patterned pieces first and got the machine to arrange them all, and then I loaded up my mat with different bits of coloured fabric, as you'll see in the next video, and cut all the bits that I needed. And then I loaded up the plain sections and cut those, but there were more white sections than I could fit on the mat, so I cut as many as I could out of my white fabric. And then I had to go back and just load in the last few pieces. So that's how I made the quilt block in ScanNCut Canvas. I hope that's not too confusing, but basically what I wanted a file with all the bits in, and then I wanted two separate cutting files with what I was going to cut in white fabric and in patterned fabric. So please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. It does help my channel by giving the video a thumbs up. It helps the video to get further up in the search rankings, and it lets more people see them. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.